For section 4, you are going to be looking at reading from different texts and answering different questions. So we can look at a lot of section 4 as comprehensions. So what you will need to do is you will need to read the text that has been provided in the activity, and you will then need to answer the questions relating to the specific article. So for an example, when you're looking at the obstacles for ECD, you are going to read the article that has been written by Masepa Jack, and then you are going to answer the questions that is asked based on what Masepa Jack has written when they interviewed different people working in ECD centers in the Cape. So you need to make sure that you answer the questions based on the text that you are reading, but also there's a lot of questions that ask you for meanings or your understanding, and what you will need to do is you will need to use a dictionary to assist you. You can either use a dictionary or you can use Google, whatever tool you have to look up words. If they are asking you to give definitions of words, please don't just think of it yourself. Please go and look at the definitions in the dictionary to be able to help you to gain an understanding of the words that are contained in the text. So for activity 1, you are going to be reading the obstacles of ECD written by Masepa Jack, and you are going to be answering the questions. Then for activity 2, you are going to be reading a piece of legislation, and you will need to analyze the legislation that is contained in the National ECD Policy. So the National ECD Policy is a document that every ECD center should have, and every practitioner should know about this document because this document helps govern the ECD sector. So if you haven't seen this document, please make sure that you download it or you ask your principal for a copy of the ECD policy, the National ECD Policy. And if you can't get it from either of them, please approach one of the facilitators at Early Inspiration for them to send you a copy of the National ECD Policy, because this policy is something that you as an ECD practitioner should be aware of. So for activity 2, you are going to read a part of the policy that has been an extract from the policy, and you will need to answer the questions that follow. So some of the questions is going to be based on what you read, but some of the questions is going to be based on your own experience in an ECD center and the different things that you as an ECD practitioner have been exposed to. One of the things that I just want to explain is jargon. So when we refer to jargon, we are referring to slang or abbreviations of words that is being used in a certain sector or field. So for example, for us in early childhood development, we don't refer to it as early childhood development, we refer to it as ECD, and we shorten the Department of Social Development to DSD. We use specific words in the ECD sector to shorten things, to make things easier to understand. So when we're looking at jargon in this excerpt, we're looking at things that is used specifically in the ECD field. So when you look at the text, you need to look for words that can be seen as jargon or be seen as terms that only people in the ECD field would understand. Then for activity 3, you are explaining something to different audience members. So we are looking at the curriculum framework for children from birth to 4, the NCF, in this activity. And you would have been exposed to this in your ECD center if you have a curriculum in place, because that curriculum would have been aligned to the NCF. So for this activity, you need to explain one of the pillars or one of the sections that fall in the NCF. So for example, well-being, identity and belonging, communicating, exploring mathematics, all of those are early learning and development areas, or the pillars that make up the NCF. So for this activity, what you need to do is you need to identify one of the elders, the early learning and development area. You need to identify that, and you need to explain that to different audience members. So for this activity, they are asking you to explain it to a 5-year-old, to an adult, and to somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you. So you can assume that the language that you should use should be English, and it should be simple. So when you complete the table that they are asking you to complete in activity 3, when they refer to visuals, visuals is pictures, and language is what type of language would you use to attract a 5-year-old's attention? What language would you use to attract an adult? What language would you use to attract somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you? That is the first step. Once you've done that, you need to do a mind map. So you will have been exposed to a lot of different mind maps in your different modules that you've been doing for your level 4, and you need to complete a mind map on how you would come up with this poster and the different elements that should be included in the poster. One thing that I also want to bring to your attention is that under each elder, which should be well-being, identity and belonging, communication, explaining mathematics, creativity, or knowledge of the world around you, in every one of those elders, you will find the domains of development. So all of the domains of development that you have been exposed to in your level 4 qualification, every single one of those domains fall under an elder. So you would need to explain in your poster and in your mind map, you would need to explain how each of those domains is taught under well-being, how it is taught under communicating, how it is taught under identity and belonging. So you need to choose one of them, and you need to explain how the different domains will be taught, or how you as a practitioner will teach that domain holistically. So that is for activity 3. And then for the summative assessment task 4, which is a presentation, you will need to come up yourself as an individual with a presentation of one of the topics that has been listed. There are 6 topics that you can choose from. Your presentation needs to have an introduction, it needs to have a body, and it needs to have a conclusion. Your presentation needs to be in written format, so that means you need to write your presentation out and submit it, but then you also need to take a video of yourself doing the presentation. So some of the modules you will have covered already in your level 4 training to date. Some of them you will not have covered. So you will need to decide which topic you are going to choose, but you need to do the research in order to present on the topic. So please choose one of the 6 topics, write out the presentation, and once you have written out the presentation, you need to do a recording of yourself doing the presentation. And then what you also need to do is you also need to explain how you would deal with difficult audience members that disagree with you. What way will you approach those audience members if they don't agree with the information that you are sharing?